in the state of the race, your place in the state of the race. If you look at it, assessing the state of the race, some people will say 3-horse race, 4-horse race. Where do you belong in this race?
Well, I'm not part of the horses. So I belong in the race, and I've said this repeatedly, that this race is open to the best. If all the players in this kind of race are fair and balanced, particularly the media, to allow Nigerian people listen to all the candidates, and I mean all the candidates, not excluding any one of us in this 18-man race. So it should be an 18-horse race. But, you know, I decline the use of the word horse because I'm not an animal. But I understand what you're saying. So I am not in the race to be counted as, you know, the first or the front runners, but as the fourth runner on the race based on ideas. And that's what has led us to where we are today. We've always projected those who are the worst as the best for us. And in my lifetime, and I've repeated this several times, that in 1979, I was about 8 years old, and I could feel the disappointment Nigeria brought upon itself when the most prepared person for that race, in 1989, Chief Obafemi Awolowo, was dumped because the system did not agree with him. Only for him to die, I think, some 10 years later, everybody was saying he's the best president Nigeria should have had. Shame. And that's what we should be discussing, ideas.
You fear that the best sometimes don't get it in Nigeria?
The best have never gotten it in Nigeria.
Do you think you are the best?
I believe so.
In this race?
Absolutely.
You said that is the last time in 2019 that you were the best in that race.
And events have proven me to be right, because all the ideas that we wanted to implement, spoken about in 2019, have now become dominant. Even some of the ideas that they were laughing at, minimum wage, the issue of alternative source of revenue for the country, the way we wanted to fight corruption, some of the ideas in 2019 were even stolen by the ruling party. Brazenly. I was the one who first proposed, for instance, that Abiola Democracy Day should be June 12 as opposed to May 29. And they stole the idea.
If you had the fear that the best man usually don't get it, has never gotten it, you think this year will be different?
I believe so, because I believe and I hope that people have learned their lessons, especially in the last 4 years, because Nigeria has gotten worse progressively in the last 4 years. And had Nigerians, and I'm saying this here, had Nigerians taken that bold step in 2019 and elected Omoyele Sowore, we will not be where we are today. We'll be more safe, we'll be secure. You know, there won't be an ASU strike for 8 months. You know, we won't have a naira that has now become a toilet paper. And we won't have the kind of corruption that we have in place today. Our health situation will be better. We probably wouldn't have had the flood that is ravaging Nigeria now, because I would have started 4 years ago to build a dam that will be generating nothing less than 1,000 megawatts, and it could have been completed at least in 4 years, like Egyptians and Moroccans do it.
What makes you think that you are the best man for the job? Now, I compare this race to the Olympics.
Yes.
I mean, you don't mouth that you're the best. You go in the heat and you get onto the track.
Yes. But the difference between Nigeria and the Olympics is that, you know, when you run a race in the Olympics, everybody is watching you, and the umpires are never biased. Well, they might be sometimes, but they are most likely 99% of the time, because right now they are aided by computers. They are not biased to the point that the winner is made the loser, and the loser is made the first person. And so that is why the Olympics is different from the Nigeria electoral system.
So, I mean, you've not said why you think you are the best.
Oh, I've said it. I mentioned several things that I put out in 2018, 2019 that become dominant. I told you what I would have done to solve so many of the problems that are afflicting you. And in terms of ideas, intellect, and exposure, even education, I'm better off than the candidates that were presented in 2019. Even some of the younger candidates in 2019 who came to me and said we should join together, that they are better than me. They have known and discovered who is more resilient, because I'm probably the only one who is still around 4 years later. After spending time in jail, restriction, being shot at, you know who the Teflon is by now. Yes.
Now, You look at it and you look at what the vote you garnered in 2019.
Yes.
It was dismal.
I just told you that there was no voting. I said it before on this program, and I'm repeating it, that 2019 was not an election, it was a selection.
So those votes that you got that were written across your name, you don't think that those are the ones that voted for you?
They allocated votes, and the person who won did not win because it was vote allocation, it wasn't vote tabulation.
So you think that this year may be different?
I believe so. I believe so. I believe strongly that it should be, and it must be, because if the right person don't come around now, Nigeria is living on borrowed times. Yes. So we don't have more time left.
Yeah, and I said that earlier because we need to make a turn in our lives as a people, and that turn we need a captain that will steer the affairs.
That's why we keep telling Nigerians that we can't continue.
The question is, can Nigerians trust Sowore? What is your pedigree? What is your experience? Because if you are going to appoint a CEO of a company,
yes.
You've lived in the United States.
Yes.
You know what it is. The seriousness that comes with appointing a CEO for a company is no jokes at all. I mean, same here in Nigeria, if you're going to appoint for a multinational or a corporation in Nigeria, you pick the very best. So what makes Omoyele Sowore the best, considering your pedigree, your education, and your experience? Do you have what it takes to lead this country?
Oh, absolutely. Let me just be very clear. We shouldn't be comparing a country to a company, because you can become the CEO of a company on the basis of the shareholding of one person, and the company may have a position that gives them superpower on it. This is a country, and it needs a president. And the president of a country should not be compared to the CEO of a company, because it's a reflection of everybody in the country. It's a reflection of their sentiment, biases, their aspirations, and their love for progress. So in terms of education, I have said it, and you know my public education profile. I have a master's degree in public administration, by the way. I'm probably the only candidate in this race with a master's degree in public education, public administration. And for that matter, a degree that I got from an Ivy League school, one of the best universities in the US, which is Columbia University in New York City. In terms of experience, I keep telling you, the best experience a leadership of a country needs is integrity, is experience they've spent doing good, not the experience they've spent doing corruption, killing people and manipulating the populace. In terms of exposure, I have done some 33 decades of monitoring and participating in the political process in Nigeria, influencing it extensively, to the point that I have said, without some of us today, I started at the age of 22 at the University of Lagos, we will not even have democracy. It was based on the experience of some of the people that have been paraded as frontliners today. We will still have military rule. Some of them even participated in military rule. They participated in sabotaging the country we call Nigeria today. So how dare we call that experience? An experience that brings poverty, that brings diseases, that brings insecurity is not an experience we should be parading in public.